Well, we're going to take a look then first at football, and a jam-packed schedule of football awaits this weekend for the Isle of Man's national sides. The men's, women's and under-18 squads are welcoming Welsh side NFA FC to the island for a series of matches across tonight and tomorrow. Naturally, to preview what's in store, I've caught up today with Manx Radio's football correspondent Tony Mepham, who's also given a big update on the situation for the local leagues ahead of the new season getting underway in under 2 months' time. We are very much in the pre-season mode for all the teams across the Isle of Man, and a big weekend coming up for the Isle of Man's national sides. The men's, women's and under-18 sides all in action. We'll start with the action taking place this evening. There are 2 games. We'll start with the game taking place up in Ramsey, and that's at 6:30pm, and that sees the Isle of Man FA Academy under-18s boys taking on the NFA FC side.
Yeah, and I think the NFA team that they're bringing over is quite strong, so it's going to be interesting how this goes. But the only thing is, Rob, few of the under-18s are away at the moment and want a place to be in New York playing in the competition. So Lewis Qualtro's team will be a little bit down on their quality, but there's still a lot of good young players in there. And what a great place to play a game of football on a sunny night, which is at Ramsey. And this game kicks off at 6:30. And we'll see how the under-18s get on against this team that really we don't know much about.
Well, that's one of 2 games taking place this evening. The other is at 7:45pm, and this sees the Ireland women's team in action against NFA FC. And Tony, the Isle of Man women's team, of course, enjoyed a positive summer last summer, bronze at the 2023 Ireland Games in Guernsey. What can you maybe expect from this team this time around in this particular friendly against this North Welsh outfit?
Well, this team has been in training now, Rob, for probably about 3 weeks, because it's all sort of getting prepared for the competition that they're going to Jersey to play in August. So Wayne Lacey's got a strong squad in there. It's a big squad, and there's a lot of players being selected tonight just to find things out. And certainly with key players in there, I'm pretty certain that Ellie Gorn will be there. She'll be playing, really good player. Becky Cole's in there, Becky Corkish. And you've got others as well, Holly Sumner. There's quality all around that team, and it's going to be interesting. Again, unknown, the Welsh team are to us, but I think Wayne Lacey's got a really strong squad tonight, and this is their first game of 3, Rob, in 3 days, so incredible amount of fixtures to cram in.
Well, there's 2 games taking place on Saturday, this Saturday the 13th of July. The women's team who we've just spoken about there, they'll be back in action against NFA FC at Clackvane Playing Fields, the home of Maloo AFC at 2:30pm on Saturday, but also on Saturday, 6:45pm at the Bowl, the men's team are in action. Disappointing campaign last summer for the men's team at the Island Games, Tony, so what will they maybe be targeting this weekend?
Well, I went last Sunday, I went up and watched the senior men's team play. I've got to say it's a total change of personnel that went away in the last Island Games and also the training games before that. And there's some real quality in there. People like Carl Clark, you've got Lee Gale in there, you've got Adam Meelan, and then there's younger players like Morgan Naylor. I thought he was superb last Sunday. But you've also got Sean Kelly in there, and you've got a lot of quality young players coming through. Yes, 1 or 2 will miss that because they're away in New York. But I think it's a great opportunity for people like June Watney and Blaine Slattery to just have a look at the players. They did well last week. There was a big squad taken out. I thought James Rice was superb in goal. But again, not much known about the NFA team, men's team. But 6:45 kickoff it is at the Bowl. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of people going down to watch that.
Well, you've already mentioned that the women's team have 3 games in 3 days. Well, that third one is going to be off Ireland on Sunday. They're playing a Lionesses supporters side. So do you have any details on what kind of challenge they might face on Sunday?
I think this is going to be a tough one. And I think a few people, when they say, Lionesses, that's going to be a really tough game. This is a supporters club, but it's not just a team that's rallied together. It's a team that actually plays in a league, from what I'm hearing. And the Ireland women's team travel out on Sunday morning on the boat and then play the game and then come back on the boat the same day. So it's going to be a busy schedule for them. I think that's why Wayne has taken a big squad for tonight's game. And then tomorrow we'll play on Saturday, he'll play some of the players that aren't going to be going away on the Sunday. But I think 1 or 2 players, I think Ellie Gorn's not available on Sunday, which is a shame. But certainly against Lioness supporters, from what we're hearing, they're really looking forward to this one. And it's going to be a tough old fixture. But when you look at the Island Games recently, our team are a team to be reckoned with. and hopefully they can bring a good result home on Sunday.
Well, Tony, just while we've got you, just very generally, we'll take a look at things from the Manx football perspective. From the FA's perspective, we understand that from last season there were talks potentially about the league structure changing, and I do believe you've got an update for us on that point.
Yeah, we have, and the vote was taken by the clubs. It's not by a committee. Basically, what was proposed is that this year would have stayed as it was, the 24-25 season, and then at the end of March, April 25, then the teams that were in the Premier League, apart from the bottom two, would stay Premier League. The two that obviously finished bottom will go into Division 2. Likewise, the two top teams in Division 2 will go up to the Premier League. And then there will be a Division 3, which will be the Combination 1, and a Division 4, which would be Combination 2. And the clubs looked at it, and the clubs voted against it, but it wasn't unanimous. I think it was, if I remember rightly, something like 14 votes to 9 for the fixtures to stay as they are. But certainly we'll be looking at things with it. We'll try and work on things. The fixtures are near enough compiled now. They'll be out in probably a couple of weeks' time, towards the end of the month. And I'm delighted that the clubs have moved the season forward a week. So the season will start off on the 31st of August.
Manx Radio Sport.
Manx Radio's football correspondent Tony Mepham there. Well, moving on, and after impressing in their first pre-season outing last weekend, FC Isle of Man are preparing to face their second test this weekend ahead of the new campaign. The Ravens are set to welcome NWCFL Division 1 North side Ashton Town to Manx Shores on Saturday. What's more, tomorrow's game will be in a slightly different set of surroundings, taking place at the Balaclone Stadium in Ramsey from 4 p.m. Well, I've been listening to the thoughts of FC Isle of Man's manager Paul Jones on the task ahead this weekend, and what, if any, effect that win over National League North side Brackley Town had last week.
It's more the performance than the results. Teams will win every game in pre-season and then get a big shock in the first league game, and vice versa. You can lose every game in pre-season, but it's a really good preparation for going into the league. So results aren't something we really focus on. I know the supporters have got quite excited by us beating a National League North team, but from our point of view, we're not getting carried away. I think the most pleasing thing was we got 20, 21 players, good minutes against a decent side, and when we did make the changes, things weren't disrupted as much as they could have been, and the way we tried to play in and out of possession was pretty solid no matter who we had on the pitch. So from my point of view and the coach's point of view, it shows us good understanding among the group, and obviously they knew they had to be on their mettle last Friday to give Brackley just a good test, let alone beat them. So that helped with concentration levels. So the challenge now is to repeat that game after game, and Ashton on Saturday will prove a slightly different test, but a very difficult one all the same.
Although there's no points or positions on the line, of course, because it is a pre-season friendly. Brackley Town were 3 tiers above you in the non-league system. Ashton Town are 1 below. But even though there's nothing on the line, how do you go about reinforcing the fact that levels can't drop, complacency can't creep in?
We as coaching staff talk about those sort of things till the cows come home. But ultimately, it's on the players to have the behaviours and the levels and the pride not to let things drop. I think some of our inconsistent results over the last few years have been because the players have just dropped off, and maybe we've allowed that to happen, so our standards have dropped a little bit. But if we're going to get anywhere close to achieving the aspirations we've got for this season, then that can't happen. So this is a great opportunity to take what we delivered last week and go again on a different pitch, a different surface, against a team that will play in a different way. So it's a big challenge. You can't just turn up and expect for the same performance level just to take place without putting an awful lot of hard work in to make sure that you get as close to it as possible. So it's more about reinforcing our messages and making sure that we stick to the game plan, and if the players can do that and put a huge amount of effort into it and stick with each other, then we won't be too far away.
When you mention about what other teams might be like for yourself, do you expect to maybe change things up from a tactical perspective a little bit for this one, or are you already quite firm in the vision that you tried to get across to the players?
I think we're getting clearer in terms of how we'd like to play. The challenge really for us relative to the teams that will be in our league is giving the players enough opportunities in 11-a-side football to put that into practice before the first league game. You know, every other team in our league going to be playing Saturday, Tuesday, and have been all the way through pre-season. And you know, we've got 4 good games of football, but maybe, you know, we need to find ways to make sure we give more opportunities and exposure to the players to not just play how we're trying to play, but also to build relationships between, you know, teammates who are likely to be starting in that first game. So Saturday's a chance to do some of that, but it's also a chance to have a look at some of the players who were maybe on the fringes at the end of last season, or have we brought into the group to train on trial, so to speak, if you want to use that term, to see how they go against the team that finished third in the Step 6 last year, and you know got very close to getting promoted into our league. So you know, Ashton played Bury and ran very, very close in a pre-season fixture. So it'll be a really tough game, and there's some players that will want to try and get a space in our squad or a shirt in our starting 11 that will have an opportunity to show us what they can do on Saturday, and I hope they take it. And you know, there'll be a slight change in terms of personnel just for that reason more than anything else, and then we can really make some decisions and then move forward with a group into that first game of the season to make sure that we've got a group who really knows what they're trying to do, and also who has those relationships on the pitch. So we're ready to go on the 27th.
And a different environment as well. Obviously, the home of the Ravens really is at the Bowl, and has been since they started as well. Change in venue, the Balaclone Stadium in Ramsey, so a grass surface as opposed to an artificial one. Is that deliberate at all? Is there any particular reason behind that?
I'd like to say yes. You know, we played on Castletown's pitch a couple of times last year against Peel and Corinthians for that reason, really, to get some experience in pre-season playing on a grass pitch, and that was brilliant. This year it's more due to let's just say, an administrative mix-up in terms of whether the bowl's available or not on Saturday. And the Isle of Man FA have the bowl, I believe, for some fixtures they've got for a team that's coming over. So we've had to kind of find a different venue, but actually it works out really, really well. It gets us into a different part of the Isle of Man, and we've got a few players who are based up north who I'm sure are looking forward to playing in front of a home crowd for them. And hopefully we get a decent crowd down to come and watch a decent level of football, and we get the opportunity to play an away type game on a grass pitch in a different environment, and that's all good preparation for the season. The local clubs have only started their pre-season this week, and we're 2 weeks away from starting our season, so you can understand why there might not be a huge amount of interest in playing us when we're kind of hitting the ground running towards a league campaign, and some of the other clubs have only just started. So if, as I say, we get promoted at any point, then our season dates goes back into middle of August, and that might match things up a little bit more between us and the local clubs in terms of when we're starting, and maybe making a few more arrangements around pre-season fixtures. But yes, we'd love to play on grass a little bit more. I think I'm right in saying there's at least 4 or 5 more 3G pitches in our league this year. Chatterton are changing, Colne are changing, Bury are changing, and there might be 1 or 2. FC St Helens have come up and they're 3G, so I think it's almost a half-half split in terms of grass and 3G in our league this year, which will be interesting. Whether that helps us or not, we shall wait and see.
Your pre-season campaign is well underway. Some of other clubs may not have started yet. The fact that you have this weekend, and then you've got the Summer Festival of Football coming up as well, 3 other teams coming across. How much confidence does that give you and the players, knowing that you might be a little bit ahead of the game going into the season?
I don't think there's any kind of one-upmanship in terms of Step 5 football or the North West Counties Premier League. It's more just trying to match our pre-season schedule to the teams that are below us in the league structure and above us in the league structure. The North West Counties league system, all 3 divisions, tends to start a couple of weeks earlier than quite a few other leagues, especially the higher leagues. We'll be certainly ready to go on the 27th of July, and looking forward to the next couple of weeks with some good games on the Isle of Man.
Manx Radio Sport.
Elsewhere, if you're still in need of a racing fix after this week's Southern 100 road races, there'll be plenty to whet your appetite in the north of the island this weekend. The Andros Racing Association is holding its July meeting at Derby Airfield this weekend. With more details is ARA Club Secretary Neal Champion.
We've got a 2-day meeting coming up, so racing both on Saturday and Sunday. And we've got a decent entry. We've got a small handful of people who've also competed in the Southern 100, as well as local guys, people staying across. And we're always pleased to say a really good sidecar grid as well.
And just with regards to that, so could you just give us an overview of the sort of solo and sidecar classes that we have in store this weekend?
Yeah, we've got a couple of open races, which basically are the top races, the open solos and open sidecars. And just looking at the sidecar list now, if you just forgive me, yeah, we've got Mike Russell across. We've got a couple of people across as well. We've got Eric Lenzer from France and Alan Thomas from Wales with us as well. And Tony Baker is also riding with us, and another Irish outfit, Dave Marshall and Mark Gash. So we've got a really broad crew, a grid of crews across for the Sidecar Open. And on the two wheels as well. I mean, we always tend to see quite busy classes across the solo fields. What can we expect this weekend? Yeah, so the open solo field is not as full as we normally expect this at our events, but still we've got some really, really fast guys here. The Kringle brothers, Ryan and Jamie, are always out front there. They're phenomenally fast. Obviously, they're well embarked on their TT career now and doing really well there. But they still race with the club where they started and really set a good pace. But keeping them honest, we've got a couple of other guys, Carl Casement and Rory Parker. I know Rory Parker had a big off quite recently and he's been getting his bike back together. But those guys are right up there and they keep Ryan and Jamie, as I say, keep them honest on the track. And for all these riders who take part, whether they're involved on their, like as you've just mentioned, their TT journey or in other things besides, the fact that there continues to be this consistent run of events up at Derby as well. For those who are involved in both the track or road racing side of things, this must be great continued experience for all these riders who take part. Well, it's fantastic. I mean, I always use the phrase grassroots because that's fundamentally what we are. You know, we're very proud of the Isle of Man being the home of road racing, the capital of road racing, all that sort of thing. But, you know, that's at peak international level. If you grow up on the island and you're a youngster and you want to get a motorbike, well, where do you go? Well, that's what you know, there's a really good off-road scene on the island. And then there's a bit of crossover where the young motocrossers actually come, when they get to old enough, they come and try out the tarmac. And it's a great place to start. And we're so proud of our alumni. You know, last year, I've got to mention this, I won't let it go. You know, we had first and second in the Manx Grand Prix race with Joe and Marcus, and they both did 120 laps as newcomers, which is just incredible, really. And they were both racing with us and still turn out with us occasionally, though they have really moved on. But they were both racing with us and cutting their teeth 2 or 3 years ago. So that's really what it's about. And we've got utter beginners there with novice jackets doing their first race meeting, and then we've got people who've finished in the top 10 in the TT. And not just providing a wider sort of general opportunity to riders as well, but the actual nature of the Derby circuit as well, because it is a shorter circuit, but it has all the, I suppose, the divots and eccentricities that you sometimes see in road racing as well. Well, I might take issue with the word divot. It's maybe a very generalised term on my behalf. It's a short circuit. It's not as bumpy as a road circuit, so that's the first thing. Although it's not billiard smooth like Donington Park either. So yeah, I will allow that. It's got a good variety of corners, and it's got it's only a mile and a half long, but it's got a decent enough straight. You can get some proper speed and some decent fast corners as well as some slow ones as well. So I think most of the lads and lasses, I said, because we got a good contingent of young female competitors as well. Most of the riders do get a lot out of it, and it really helps them hone their skills. And one thing again, and I know when we spoke with you at the association last time, is the fact that we're seeing female competitors coming through as well. How good is that to see? Well, it's fantastic, and obviously we do everything we can to encourage it. We've just kind of recently identified where we run a race school, which is really an ACU process. Okay, if you want to get your race license, you have to go through an ACU process, which essentially consists of a classroom session and then a number of track sessions with certified ACU coaches. But that's always done in conjunction with our events. And then what we've kind of noticed, and this is not specifically in reference to the younger female riders, but what we've kind of noticed is that then you go from that, you get your shiny new ACU license, and then it's my first race meeting. And that is quite a big quite a big step for everybody to make, especially if you're really young. So we've got a decent number of riders who are under 18, and so we've identified. I'm flying a little bit of a kite here because we haven't actually done anything of this, but we really want to provide some ongoing coaching for our new riders, really. So they've qualified for their ACU license, but we want to start to giving them some track time, giving them some coaching and pointers to actually learn how to go faster, because the ACU process just makes sure you're safe. You're not a danger to yourself and other people. But now we want to say, okay, let's try and see if we can help you get some real skills to help yourself out.
Well, finally then, with all that we've talked about, looking to this weekend then, for those who may be interested in coming down and supporting the racing that the Andres Racing Association puts on, what time, where, how can people come down and watch and support?
Yeah, okay. So this is the important thing for anyone listening, isn't it? Yeah. So we have bikes on track from 9:30. I previously mentioned the ACU Race School. I believe on Saturday morning that's going to be the first bikes on track, but usually bikes on track from 9:30. We have, roughly speaking, about an hour and a half of practice, assuming there's no delays or incidents and everything, and then we usually try and run the first few races on the programme before we have a bit of a lunch break. Now there's 14 events. Basically we've got 7 classes and we run each one twice. The idea behind that is that if somebody has a problem, then they get a second outing. So we've got 14 races, which is quite a busy programme, and we run a few before lunch, typically around about 11:30 if you want to see the racing, and then going on through the afternoon. Just for reference, it's worth coming to both days because we're running in different directions. We use the circuit in both directions, so we're running in one direction on the Saturday and the opposite direction on Sunday, which really does change things about, and it suits some people in one direction much more than another as well. And the last thing I guess I should say is entry is £6, and it's free for under 16s.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally tonight, a company with a base here on Ireland is looking to provide potentially crucial support to grassroots clubs on Manx shores. It's an initiative that's been launched by Flutter International. Sue Hammett is from the company and she explains what the project is and the importance they place on helping out smaller clubs here.
So we officially launched what we're calling our Manx Sports Boost grant scheme for local island sports clubs. We recognise that grassroots sports clubs are a vital part of our local communities, and we just want to help play our part in contributing to the very vibrant sports community here on the island. As a company, we've operated a similar scheme in the UK for a few years, but island sports clubs have never been eligible for the grants, and we wanted to change that. So we've now made it possible for clubs to apply for a grant of either £500 or £1,000 between now and the end of August.
Now, there are plenty of companies here on the Isle of Man that offer support to sports across the island in many different ways. So how does this maybe differ to maybe what other organisations are doing to help boost sport on the island?
I think what we're looking at is trying to help those smaller clubs, the ones on the island that maybe struggle with funding and visibility. Any club can apply, but we're looking at those really small clubs that that maybe we don't get to hear much about, that may struggle for fees, for rent, for example, for, courts, basketball courts, bowling courts, whatever they have to pay rent out for. Maybe they're struggling with just basic equipment, things like that, really. And we're just eager to hear from the sports clubs that are in need. We would like, because of the nature of our business, we do have to have the club with 18 years and over as well. Not predominantly under 18s, but we will be open to support any clubs on the island if they meet the criteria. There's a simple form for them to complete and return to us, and but we will have a look at all the applications and make a decision by September and make sure all the clubs receive the grants in September.
In your view as well, the grassroots clubs in whatever sport it may be on the Isle of Man or elsewhere, just how vital are they, not just to provide something competitive and social for people to do, but maybe to bring through the next generation of stars, whether it's here on the Isle of Man or elsewhere?
Yes, absolutely. South Rob, there's a really, really strong sports community on the island, and it's the very fabric of any community, to be fair, and it gives, a great outlet for young people and adults as well. It's a great way of meeting people. Yes, it could support the next, maybe the next Mark Cavendish of the future or someone like that. But we're really here just to kind of give those clubs a little bit of a boost, help them through, what is still a difficult time for a lot of clubs. We're still dealing with what happened during the pandemic. A lot of clubs suffered during that time. So it's really for us just to give back to the Isle of Man community a little bit and just say we recognise that there's some great clubs out there doing lots of fantastic work with the local communities that maybe that don't get the chance to get the funding like the bigger clubs do.
You've already mentioned the size of the grants that might be available to those who apply, but just how many grants could be available depending on the interest that you get?
So it does depend on the interest. We're not putting a big cap on it at the moment. Obviously, there's lots of clubs out there, but we're going to see what the kind of weigh up the level of interest. This is the first time we've done it. We'd hope to give at least 20 to 30 grants out at a minimum. But if we find that the level of interest is higher, then we'll look at that further. So obviously it's not millions of pounds, but I don't suspect that there will be millions of clubs applying. I don't want to put a specific cap on it at this stage, but let's say we've got 20 or 30 grants at a minimum that we'll be giving out.
Okay, and finally and importantly for anyone listening out there who may be interested in applying or at this stage maybe just wants to find out a few more details, how can they go about applying and or finding out more information?
Of course, yeah. All they need to do is drop us an email at communityinvestment@flutter.com.
Well, that's all we have time for on Friday Sports Preview this week. Many thanks to my guests this week, Tony Mepham, Paul Jones, Neal Champion and Sue Hammett. Have yourself a wonderful Friday evening and a wonderful weekend as well. Chris Kinley is going to be here with you next. But from me, until next time, it is bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.